about 1985, had at the time the most superior graphics capability of any computer. Since that time, the Amiga has been surpassed by other unnamed computers that we all know about. We felt at Digital Creations that given the Amiga's forte, which is video, we could come up with some sort of mechanism to enhance the display using the existing display hardware that the Amiga had and a little bit of hardware help on the outside. Given that we were really wrapped up into video development, DCTV took on that line or that strategy for making a display. Upon examination, we found that the Amiga did have the capability in terms of output bandwidth to construct a video signal, but that video signal would have to be compressed in order for it to look right. And so John Botteri, the president of the company, explored the possibilities and came up with a design that looked like it would work on paper. In order to test our theory, we implemented the algorithms required to compress the video and then reconstructed video based on those algorithms on other third-party display boards for the Amiga. And what we found was that it made pleasing pictures. The next step was to get the hardware designed, and our friends at Progressive Image Technology would be just the people to do that. We came over to their place and basically showed it to their video engineers, and as soon as they were convinced that this was a usable technique and actually a very exciting and opened up all sorts of potential type of technique, they went ahead and designed a prototype bit of hardware. After about 3 months of design and feature sessions, in other words, we basically took and added what we felt would be things that would help DCTV along. We came up with our first working version, and that would put it at around January of 1990, I believe. And what we were able to do was convert images from 24-bit to our DCTV format using some hacked together software. And the first image we saw was perfect, so we felt that this was the way to go.
I'm your host for DCTV, A Guided Tour. This breakthrough product allows you to digitize, create, and animate in 24-bit color. Although DCTV is easy to use, you must be familiar with Amiga terms and operation procedures in order to properly follow this tutorial. Digital Creations has a reputation for upgrading and refining their products. DCTV software will no doubt benefit from continued development. Although the techniques demonstrated will remain the same, more features will be added. We have a lot of ground to cover, so let's get to it. We're going to be installing DCTV on an Amiga 2000 with a 1084 monitor. The installation is identical on all Amigas except for one minor exception on the Amiga 1000, which will be covered shortly. After making certain that the power is off to the computer and the monitor, remove the RGB cable from the video port and any cable attached to the parallel port. Notice that DCTV has been designed with only one anchor screw. Insert the RGB cable from DCTV into the RGB video port of your Amiga. Insert the parallel cable from DCTV into the computer parallel port. Insert the monitor cable into the DCTV RGB pass-through.
The Amiga 1000 has a non-standard parallel port. To use DCTV with the Amiga 1000, a female-to-female gender changer is required on the parallel port connector. This should be available at your local Amiga dealer. If you plan to use a parallel port switch box, make certain the switch box passes all 25 pins. We suggest the cable from the switch box to the Amiga be no longer than 1 foot in length. The use of a switch box allows you to select between DCTV and other parallel devices such as printers and audio samplers without having to power down the computer to switch cables. We have elected to use 2 monitors for this tutorial. It's convenient to have 2 monitors since one may be used solely as an RGB monitor for viewing DCTV's welcome and DCTV's convert screens in RGB mode, while the second monitor can be dedicated as a composite video monitor, which is necessary to view DCTV's 24-bit output. To view the video output of DCTV, plug one end of an RCA video cable into the video out of DCTV. Plug the other end into the monitor's composite input. If you are using only one Amiga RGB monitor, connect the RGB cable and the composite cable so that you can switch between both modes to view standard Workbench and DCTV setup screens, as well as the DCTV output with one monitor. If you are experiencing difficulty using a Commodore 2002 or a Commodore 1080 monitor, you should note that using these monitors in RGB mode through the DCTV RGB pass-through may require a specially modified cable. This cable should be available from your local Amiga dealer or may be ordered directly from Redmond Cable, whose address will appear at the end of this tape. Using either monitor with the DCTV composite video output will work fine. Using a multi-sync monitor to view your Amiga and DCTV RGB screens works great, but you will also need a composite monitor to view DCTV's 24-bit composite video output. If you are using a single composite monitor instead of an Amiga RGB monitor, you will need an RGB to composite converter. Install the DCTV RGB cable into the computer's RGB port. The converter then plugs into the DCTV RGB pass-through. A simple RCA video switch box, which is available at any electronics store such as Radio Shack, would then be used to switch between the DCTV welcome and convert screens and the DCTV composite video output. Using a television that can only display an RF signal, which is radio frequency, will require an RGB to RF converter. The Commodore A520 video adapter will convert the Amiga RGB to RF. But you will still need a composite to RF converter to allow you to view DCTV's composite output. A home VCR has this capability, or you can pick up a Radio Shack RF modulator for about $30. A switch box could then be used to switch between both sources. Keep in mind that any component that is between the video out of DCTV and your VCR or monitor may somewhat degrade the signal. At this point, we have DCTV installed, which provides you with a fully functional 24-bit display board for images and animations, and affords you access to a 16.8 million color paint box. But there is still one more connection left that will allow you to use one of the most powerful features of DCTV, the digitizer. By plugging an appropriate video source into the video in jack, you can now digitize in full NTSC color. Your composite video can come from any one of the following sources: a live video camera, although your subject must be still for 10 to 30 seconds, a still video camera such as the Canon Zapshot. This is a very stable source of images. A VCR with the ability to freeze a frame. A VCR on pause may introduce video noise or may not be stable enough to grab. A laser disc player. Using a laser disc will provide a rock-steady, high-quality image for you to grab. For those of you who own an infinite window time-based corrector with a freeze frame function, you can use this feature to obtain a still image from videotape that DCTV can grab with excellent results. Note the pixel and tint adjust pots. They are preset at the factory and should not be adjusted if you have a good image. Refer to your manual for more information on calibrating. Assuming you are using high-quality shielded cables to connect the various components, let's review the minimum requirements versus the preferred setup. The minimum configuration will have a single Amiga RGB composite monitor and an Amiga with 1 meg of RAM and a disk drive. The preferred configuration has 1 RGB monitor, 1 composite monitor, and 3 or more megs of RAM. The more RAM you have, the larger your animations can be. A hard drive is always recommended when using any productivity software. An accelerator, such as a CSA or GVP 68030 board with 32-bit RAM, will boost overall system performance and increase the playback speed of animations. Now let's move on to the software. Although DCTV will run on a 1 megabyte Amiga with a single disk drive, you cannot use the spare page feature, and the quick save function will need to be redirected to disk. If you have at least 3 megs of RAM, you can load the digitize, paint, and convert modules into RAM. If you have a hard drive, the software is easily installed. In either case, refer to your manual for complete instructions. The remainder of this tutorial will be conducted using a system that meets the preferred configuration. Using your backup copy, boot up the program by clicking on the icon that is appropriate to your system. This will display the DCTV welcome screen on your RGB monitor. By selecting Digitize, which uses the composite video output, we will proceed to digitize an image. Our source will be a live video camera. Notice the various software module buttons on the left side of your screen that enable you to enter the mode you wish to activate. This is called the system menu. The menu bar shows you which module is currently active. The rest of the screen is divided into 3 sections: image capture, image control, and image processing. In the image capture menu, we have selected camera because that is our source. If you are using any other source, select tape. Selecting lace will digitize in interlace. Selecting filter will decrease noise from a captured image. Selecting Standard digitize and processes an image in approximately 24 seconds. Selecting High will digitize and process in approximately 27 seconds and may result in images with more vibrant colors. In either case, your object must remain still for the first 10 seconds. Select Speed 3 if you have a stable video source, or 2 for a less than perfect signal. 1 is for a weak signal or to create special effects. DCTV will automatically step down to the optimum speed if it cannot accurately lock onto the supplied video source. The next row of buttons are referred to as image control options. Selecting Scan displays what DCTV is receiving from your video source on your composite monitor. On the RGB monitor is the Ready to Digitize menu. Those with a single Amiga RGB monitor may switch to RGB mode to view this screen, but you merely need to press the left mouse button to begin the digitization process, or the right mouse button to cancel. Press the left mouse button and make sure that the object or image is still for 10 seconds, unless you are trying to achieve a special effect. Once DCTV has digitized and processed the image, it is stored in the Amiga frame buffer. You can either save it now, or it can be further manipulated in the image processing menu. Selecting Make will apply any changes made in the image processing menu to the current image. If you are not satisfied with the changes you have made, select Last in the image processing menu and select the Make again. Once you are satisfied with any changes you have made, select Commit, which will overwrite your data in the Amiga frame buffer with the current settings you have selected in the image processing menu. The last option is the Swap button, which will allow you to easily set up rub-throughs. Rub-throughs allow you to create an image combined from more than one screen and will be covered in the DCTV Paint tutorial later in this tape. Now let's take a closer look at the options in the image processing menu. The Lace button will convert the display to and from interlace. The Overscan button will allow for conversion between non-overscan and overscan and vice versa. These options are useful for converting formats of images that have already been saved. For example, if you have received an image created by someone but not saved in overscan, you can use this option so that you could record the image to videotape without visible borders. The Depth button toggles the number of bit planes between 3 and 4. When using images from other programs, selecting 4-bit planes will yield better results when going to videotape. But we have found that animation files saved in the Anim format will play back faster using the 3-bit plane setting. We will cover animating a little later. The slider controls on the right side of the image processing menu have obvious meaning and can be adjusted to achieve a desired look. Keep in mind that when going to videotape, you should avoid using colors that are too hot since they will tend to bleed after recording. A good rule of thumb is to avoid RGB values greater than 191. White can usually exceed this limit with no problems. In standard Amiga Paint or rendering software, keep color levels at 12 or below. Now let's enter DCTV's Paint module to explore some of its possibilities. We've opened the Paint control panel, which reveals all options and tools, some of which may have their own panel. Before jumping in, you should set the screen specifications. Interlace and overscan can be set here before painting. 3 and 4 are for selecting the number of bit planes. These may be reselected once your artwork is on the canvas. The changes will then modify the image on your canvas. Let's also select our paint options. Fast Draw may speed up DCTV's paint functions by dropping the bit planes to 3 during draw operations. Fast Feedback will create a marquee that follows your mouse movements, allowing you to preview your motion. You can abort the operation before committing if it is unsatisfactory by pressing the spacebar before releasing the left mouse button. Draw from Center will expand the selected shape in all directions from the starting point. If the button is not selected, the starting point is on the edge. Hide Pointer will make the crosshairs disappear while you press and hold the left mouse button and will reappear when it is released. Smooth Clips anti-aliases clips that are resized. Since it takes more time to resize a clip with smoothing on, you may want to turn smoothing off if you don't need your clips anti-aliased. You may pre-select the magnification factor, but at this stage we are painting in the default magnification of ×2. The default palette may be used, or you may create your own which can be saved as a project palette. Or you can load one of the other palettes provided in the DCTV software. More on creating custom palettes later. Now back to the toolbar. Selecting the brush icon from the toolbar will apply the settings we've just made. The paint panel consists of 3 sections. To the left is the currently selected color. Next are the 36 color wells that can be individually selected, modified, or refilled. To the right, we have the mixing area that can be used for creating new colors. This scheme is very natural for traditional non-computer artists, as it recreates the tools of a conventional painter's palette. Below the paint panel is the Attributes panel. Notice the brush button is already selected. The 2 left boxes are the paint mode selectors. Solid will lay down color. Tint will modify the chrominance portion of the color. Shade will modify the luminance portion of the color. Refer to your DCTV Paint Reference Manual for definitions of these terms. All paint modes are affected by other attributes. We will now clear the screen. Do this by pressing and holding the Shift key and the letter K. This will fill the screen with the current color, in this case, black. Airbrush is the default painting mode. As long as your left mouse button is pressed, it will continue to spray while dragging. Blend will mix your current color with any existing color on your screen. Rub through will expose the spare page that is underneath the canvas you are currently working on by using the current painting attributes. Water, like watercolors, will have your brush run out of paint just as a real paintbrush does. Smooth will soften your image by averaging the colors in the selected area. Filter will attempt to correct your image so that it conforms to NTSC color rules. This is useful when the image is destined for video. The brush controls consist of 3 slider gadgets that allow you to control the size of the brush. The aspect ratio are the height and width factors of your brush. Flow rate determines the intensity of the current attributes. To the right are the 8 brush-shaped buttons. Experiment with the various shapes and you'll find each to be useful. We will mostly be using the cone-shaped brush. Select Color from the Attributes panel. RGB represents the red, green, and blue color components of the current color that can be modified by moving these sliders. Once your color is as you like, press and hold the Shift key while clicking in the color well. This will place your current color into the paint well. This is one method of creating a custom palette. The RGB color components are familiar to a computer graphic artist who is used to painting with light. Click the Cycle gadget and you can adjust the CMY, or cyan, magenta, and yellow components. Desktop publishing color charts will often have these values to enable you to reproduce exact colors. Cycle to the HSV, or hue, saturation, and value color components. Hue Adjust will step through a 360-degree color wheel. The saturation slider will increase the intensity of a color as the level is increased. The value of a color is the amount of reflected luminance. Cycle to the HLS, or hue, lightness, and saturation color components. These adjustments are similar to HSV, except the lightness, or what is sometimes referred to as the luminance, will allow the setting of emitted light. By placing the lightness slider midway, you can attain a pure color value. The HSV and HLS adjustments are important to the video engineer who needs the ability to optimize colors that will be recorded to video. Clear will fill the mixing area with the current color. Holding the Shift key while clicking on Clear fills the canvas with the current color. Wipe fills the mixing area with the current fill mode. This is helpful in creating different palettes. Pressing the Shift key while clicking on the colors in the mixing palette will change your current color. At that point, you can copy that color into the paint wells. This is another method of creating a custom palette. As with Clear, holding down the Shift key while clicking on Wipe fills the canvas with the current fill mode. Chroma sets the approximating color value of the current color. Luminance sets the brightness percentage value of the current color. These are most helpful when creating stencils. There are two basic fill types: the draw fill and the flood fill. As you can see, the flood fill requires a stencil. Create a stencil by selecting the Stencil Draw tool from the Tools menu. Select the desired method of creation and draw onto the canvas. When done, click on the stencil icon in the Tool menu. Select Flood Fill and click inside the created stencil. Now select the Draw Fill. Change the color and draw your selected shape right over the stencil-filled area. Notice how the stencil not only defined the boundary of the fill area, but it also protected an area from being painted on. Traditional airbrush artists will equate this to what's known as a frisket. Rub-through will allow you to cut out a section of your canvas, revealing that portion of the spare page. Click on the Spare Page gadget, and your current canvas is now a spare page. Interesting effects can be created by combining rub-through with highlighting. Highlighting will allow you to adjust the intensity of a rub-through, transparency of an overlapping image, or simulate cast lighting. Wonderful results can be obtained by experimenting with this feature. Filter has the same effect whether in fill or brush mode. Swap pages again, define the area to be filtered, and notice the anti-alias taking effect. Gradient fill uses the current pattern in the gradient menu. This pattern can be applied in the following ways: border, horizontal, vertical, linear. This marquee sets the starting angle of the gradient. Radial. This marquee also sets the starting point of the gradient. And 4-point. Pattern and warp both pertain to an effect upon a clip. For this demonstration, we'll load a DCTV picture file. To create a clip, select either a shape or freehand tool. Then select the clip tool in the toolbar. Press and hold the left mouse button while dragging over the area you want to cut. When you release the mouse button, your clip will be built and the tack icon is automatically selected. If you are not satisfied with the clip area, press the space bar before releasing the left mouse button to abort the clip procedure. You may now either move the clip by pressing and holding the left mouse button inside the clip marquee, then dragging to the desired position, or stamp down your clip by clicking outside the marquee area. Once satisfied, you should save your clip. Using the same clip, you can perform any manipulation you choose, such as rotate, flip, bend, shear, or resize. If you are not satisfied with the change you have made, click on Restore. This altered image can then be patterned or warped. To perform a fill effect with a clip, you must select the brush tool in the toolbar menu. Select the desired fill type and shape. Tiling, set your clip side by side. Brick will align every other row of the clip. Wallpaper will stair-step the clip. At this point, you may want to clear your screen. Interesting results can be obtained by warping your image. DCTV gives excellent control over this by allowing directional warping as well as control over the warp factor. The warp factor is the amount of depth of the warp curve. Click on Gradient in the Attributes bar. Since it is one of the fill options, we will cover this before going on to stencil in depth. Gradient ranges are set by placing color tags that are grabbed from the color well, mixing palette, or current canvas. Click on the desired color in the color well, or press and hold the Shift key as you click on the desired color in the mixing palette or on the current canvas. You may want to clear the gradient tabs now to create your own custom gradient by clicking on the Clear Tabs key. With the desired color selected, click in the tab placement area to place the color. You may remove a single color by clicking and holding the left mouse button on that color and removing it from the tab placement area. Repeat these steps as desired. Click in the Gradient Preview area to activate the gradient. Changes to the gradient will not be in effect until you click in the Gradient Preview area. For an abrupt change of color, place two tabs, one on top of another. Click in the Gradient Preview. Notice that the color on top displays to the left and the color on bottom displays to the right. Moving the dither slider can adjust your gradient from smooth to coarse. The tab action keys control the distribution of your color tabs. The tabs can be reversed in order and equally spaced apart. You can cycle between any of the other available gradient settings, and you can clear any tab selections by clicking on the Clear key. Gradient settings can be saved by saving the current palette. Save the stencil portion of the paint tutorial for last, since its relationship to text handling is inseparable. This section will therefore cover stenciling and text together. Of course, stencils can be applied to any shape. We will also cover how stencils can be used in rub-throughs. At this time, you may want to select or create a DCTV image to be used as a background. Click on the text gadget in the toolbar. This tells DCTV to read the fonts in the current font directory. That list is displayed here. Select the font by clicking the left mouse button on the desired name. Unless you select a specific font size, DCTV will automatically select the font size and display a preview of the font name and style here. The name and the selected size of the current font is displayed here. Once you have the desired font, you may select its style and aspect. Plain, bold, italic, underline, normal, wide, tall, and tall and wide. Notice that the changes are reflected in the display area. Reload enables you to access another font directory, which must first be assigned in the shell or CLI. To do this, you must go to the workbench by clicking on the front-back gadget. If you are working with one monitor, you will have to switch to the RGB mode. Open a shell or CLI. Type Assign. This will show you what all your current assignments are. We will be assigning our directory to the fonts directory on DF0. To do that, type Assign, space, fonts, colon, space, DF0, colon, no space, fonts, return. To verify the change of assignment, type Assign again. Return. You will see the change reflected in the list of assignments. Click on the front-back gadget, which will take you back to the DCTV composite output. Then click on Reload. Notice the disk activity light as it reads the new font directory. All fonts activated from the previous directory will remain in the font selector, as well as the fonts in the new fonts directory. The method of having multiple font directories is helpful when dividing them between Paint, video, word processing, and desktop publishing packages. DCTV allows you to access any Amiga font directory you choose. Now that you have the desired font selected, type into the text entry gadget. Notice that the display area now has the entered text showing. Click on the tack icon. Then click on the stencil draw icon. The text typed into the text entry gadget will then appear on the screen as a text stencil. Paste it down by clicking outside the marquee, or position it by pressing and holding the left mouse button inside the marquee while dragging. Once the text is where you want it, paste it down. You can convert this into a stencil clip by selecting the Clip tool and Shape from the toolbar. Drag around the stencil. When the left mouse button is released, the stencil clip is built. Once the stencil is in a clip format, you may perform the same manipulations to it just as you would a normal clip. This is helpful in creating very high resolution text and special effects. Once you've converted the text stencil into a clip, select Stencil in the Brush Attributes menu. Select Clear. This quickly removes the text stencil placed earlier. Selecting half will resize the clip, creating a very high resolution text stencil. Position the stencil clip and paste it down. Select Flip Y, Shear, and align the stencil clip. Then paste. Select Stencil Use in the toolbar. Click on Invert from the Brush Attributes menu. Then Flood Fill in the toolbar. Select the desired fill type. We'll be using a gradient fill. Select and position the desired colors. Click in the Gradient Fill preview. Click in the non-stenciled area. Adjust the float rate to 50%. Reverse the gradient order and click in the remaining area, or you may use the Fill tool. Click on Stencil again to turn off the stencil, allowing us to see our artwork. We'll now combine the stencil with rub-through. Select Stencil in the Brush Attributes bar. Click on Free and activate Use Closeness. Make your current color black. Select Color in the Brush Attributes menu. Set luminance to 0%. Select Stencil Draw with the Filled Rectangle tool. Drag over the artwork. A new stencil is created without covering the current image. Convert this into a clip using the method covered earlier. Deactivate Use Closeness in the Attributes menu and clear the screen by pressing Shift-K. Go to the spare page. Load the image you selected earlier for the background. Click on TAC to reactivate the clip. You may want to remove the main menu screen. Clicking the right mouse button will toggle the menu screen off and on again. Position and paste the stencil clip. Reactivate the menu. Click on Magnify in the toolbar. We do not want to rub through on the land portion in the lower half of the stencil, so we must protect it from being painted on. Click on the Brush tool and the dotted freehand tool. Resize the brush to 4. Press and hold the left mouse button to apply more stencil to protect the shoreline. When done, click the Magnify tool again and the stencil button. Swap pages again. Notice that the stencil is the same for both pages. Increase flow to 100%. Fill the unprotected areas with the gradients. Swap pages again. Click on Fill in the Brush Attributes menu and select Solid and Rub Through. Use Draw Fill, the rectangle, and drag over the top half of the stencil. The object in the spare page is revealed. Click on Brush in the Attributes menu. Set the attributes to Tint and Rub Through. Set the flow rate to 75%. Drag over the lower half of your stencil. Click on the stencil gadget to make the stencil disappear. We now have a finished product. The lower half of the stencil looks as though it were a reflection in the water. At this point, you may want to save your artwork. There are several methods you could have used to create this image. We chose this method to demonstrate several features at the same time. Now, on to the Convert module. Click on the Convert button and activate your RGB display. Convert is a powerful utility that enables you to convert DCTV files into standard Amiga IFF files. File can then be displayed without DCTV using any appropriate Amiga software. You can enter the Convert menu from any DCTV module. Notice that the Make button is flashing. Click on it to make our current image into an Amiga IFF file. The image processing controls are the same as in the digitizing and process section covered earlier. Dither will mix colors to create an apparent new color. Depending on your image, you may need to try different methods to attain the best results. Select Make after your choice. We will use the default of None. Click Make to see the result. Your image is converted into a low-res ham with 4096 colors, unless you've changed the screen settings. Here, you can modify the image to match the compatibility of your paint program or Amiga display method. Close will close the RGB screen to conserve RAM. Last swaps the current settings with those last used. This is handy to compare changes in convert settings. Reset will use the default settings as when the program was activated. The number of colors can be changed using the slider gadget, but will remain within the parameters determined by the chosen screen settings. No color 0 prevents color 0 from passing video through when using a Genlock. The RGB sliders allow control of the amount of your 3 color components of your current color. Remember that legal values for video are at 12 and below. The current color is displayed here. Copy will fill another well with the current color. Swap exchanges the current color with the selected color. Keep prevents color changes of selected colors during the conversion process when using the Make command, and will display that last chosen color here. Free will undo the Keep function. If the image is not satisfactory, you will have to experiment with all the settings. Once you are satisfied, save your image. Now let's cover animation. Up to now, we've been demonstrating the preparation of stills. If you've created a 24-bit IFF image with a program such as Imagine or Lightwave, it is easy to load and save it as a DCTV display file. This is fine when your still is destined for a presentation using software such as Can Do or Amiga Vision, but hardly convenient when you need to convert a series of frames for an animation. It's easier to convert a batch using the IFF to DCTV utility located on the program disk in the util drawer. Copy this program into your C directory using the shell. Type copy space DCTV1 : no space util /IFF to DCTV space C:, return. Converting a series of files can be automated in the shell or a utility program like DiskMaster or DAAM, which stands for DCTV Automated Animation Maker. In all cases, the IFF to DCTV program is being used. In the shell, type IFF to DCTV space and the file name. This converts one file using the default settings. To view the default settings and other options, type IFF to DCTV return. The change in file size from 24-bit to a DCTV display file is dramatic. We've seen compressions up to 1/10 of the original file size. This allows for more data to be stored, loaded, and played back. To convert a series of files where the difference in name is the picture number, type SPAT space IFF to DCTV, the file name, dot, and the required number of question marks, and return. If you have DiskMaster, you can convert entire directories. First, set one of the programmable commands to be the IFF to DCTV program. Highlight all the files to be converted, then click on the command. DAAM, the DCTV Automated Animation Maker, will convert various formats automatically, delete unwanted files after conversion, and create an anim file for you. This program is well worth the investment and can be downloaded as shareware. Once your files are saved as DCTV display files, you may load them into your favorite animation software. Like many programs, Deluxe Paint will automatically load a series of frames once the beginning file name has been given and the number of subsequent frames to be loaded. Once the anim is built, follow normal DPaint playback procedures. A program like Anim Build allows you to manually select the individual frames in any order you choose. The anim can then be played back using your favorite animation player software. The length of your animation is dependent on available RAM, the number of bit planes, and other variables. IVS has been demonstrating the playing of DCTV animation directly from a 360 megabyte hard drive with only 3 megabytes of RAM using their Grand Slam SCSI controller and custom software. This is an exciting development as it greatly raises the limitations imposed by RAM constrictions. Now sit back for some inspiration.
Our preliminary release of DCTV centered about the minimum configuration that we felt would accommodate what capabilities DCTV had. That would be a 1 meg environment. As it turns out, we found that our typical user has more like 3 meg available in their system. So in order to accommodate this extra space that we found for users, we're on an upgrade path for our software that will expand and include more support for advanced features that this sort of space allows us to pull off. The first such feature is the much requested undo feature, and that of course is something that the 1 meg environment precluded, but a 3 meg environment could accommodate easily. Another such improvement we felt would be the addition of some more advanced text handling capabilities and importation of brushes and such from other paint environments. We felt those things were requested by lots of users, so we will put them in. have expressed for DC, or one of the needs that people that have DCTV have expressed, was that of being able to overlay DCTV imagery on top of video. As it stands right now, DCTV can create a composite video signal that is directly recordable. But if a user wishes to overlay a DCTV image on top of existing video, that's something that they would need some help with. In order to accommodate that need, we created a device known as an RGB adapter. And what that does is it takes the DCTV composite signal and decodes it into RGB. And the third-party Genlocks out on the market could then easily plug into the RGB adapter and allow the image then to be overlaid on top of whatever video goes through that Genlock. The key creation of any sort of DCTV image is created via some software enhancements to the paint program, which will be available with the RGB adapter. And then a user can take and create an arbitrary transparent region in their DCTV artwork in order then to overlay what's left, the opaque portion, on top of video. And the key creation is about as flexible as one could possibly want.